Alors, nous sommes...
This is the Subcommittee on International Human Rights of the Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development. Today is our 57th meeting. Today is February 24th, 2015.
Today is the developing situation of religious minorities in Bangladesh. We have with us one witness at the moment. We're hoping we'll have a second witness. Unfortunately, a transportation issue relating to the Via Rail train from Montreal. I look over at my colleague, Mr. Benskin, who looks very knowing on this issue, has caused him to be late. Hopefully he will arrive before the end of the meeting. So a little different than our normal procedure. Normally, we would hear from both witnesses, then go to questions. It may be that we'll hear from one witness, go to questions, and have to make a further adjustment as time goes on. We'll see what happens and play it a little bit by ear. But at any rate, Mr. Roy, who is the president of the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, is with us today. Mr. Roy is going to begin, and then whether we go to the other witness or to questions will depend upon what happens. So, Mr. Roy, please feel free to begin. Thank you.
My name is Kirit Sinha Roy, and I am the Chief Executive of the Ontario chapter of the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, in short BHBCUC. I'm a former newspaperman who fled to Canada in 1992 and was received as a refugee. The Council is a secular and non-partisan organization founded in Bangladesh in 1988 by Major General C.R. Dotto, a Pakistani army officer who defected to join the Mukti Bahini, the liberation forces, and is considered one of the heroes of the 1971 Bangladesh freedom struggle. The two co-presidents were Mahathir Bodhipal and Mr. T.D. Rosario. The Ontario chapter is relatively new. We are grateful to the chair of the Subcommittee on International Human Rights, Mr. Scott Reed, MP, for the Conservative Party, for the invitation to appear today, and to the Vice Chairman, Wayne Marston, MP, member for the official opposition, and his policy advisor, Thomas Allen, for their active support and encouragement for this hearing. This is not the first time we have appeared before the House Standing Committee. In 2004, we were invited by the sometime Liberal MP, Mr. David Kilgore, to appear before this committee. Our message to you today, I regret to say, has not changed significantly. The religious and ethnic minorities population are at greater risk today than a decade ago. The parliamentary Islamist party, Jamaat-e-Islam, existed even then, but have since been bolstered by the meteoric rise of shadowy extra-parliamentary Islamist forces, such as Hefazat-e-Islam, which operates through a huge network of unregulated madrasas throughout Bangladesh, whose students and alumni can be mobilized through the skillful use of social media and the madrasa network. We have made a written submission, and we will make a confidential submission too, but there are few points we would like to bring to your attention. Firstly, minority rights and the Constitution. Second, decline in the minority Hindu population. Third, minorities as second-class citizens. Four, violence against minorities like land grabs, attacks on lives and property, and most importantly, abduction of girls and women, rape, forced conversion, and forced marriages. Minority rights have always been a contested principle since the foundation of Bangladesh. The Constitution adopted on November 4, 1972, enshrined the principle of religious pluralism and freedom of religion in Article 41. In 1977, the military dictator Ziaur Rahman removed the secular principle from the Constitution. It's called the Fifth Amendment. And in 1988, another military dictator, Hossein Mohammad Ershad, declared Islam as the state religion. The official name remains the People's Republic of Bangladesh. Secondly, Hindus are now an endangered species in Bangladesh, which even as East Pakistan had a Muslim majority population, the Hindu population started to drop drastically after partition of 1947 and again after the War of Independence in 1971. In 1975, Hindus were 15.6% of the population and 9.5% in 2010. Some say that they are barely 8% of the population now. According to the latest census, the Buddhists stand at 0.7%, and the Christians are the smallest group at 0.3%. The two reasons for the decline are, first, the enemy property law, later renamed the vested property law, which dates from 1965. For rich and poor, the constant threat of Islamist-inspired violence against them, their families, institutions, and places of worship often become unbearable. Those who have the means leave for India or overseas. Others remain and continue to live in fear. Thirdly, minorities are at best, second-class citizens. Religious and ethnic minorities are at the disadvantage in accessing higher education or employment in the civil service. Successive governments have refused to provide statistics on the number of minorities in the civil service, but we believe there are very few. The military and security services are devoid of minorities. The only professions open to the educated members of the minorities are the liberal professions. In January this year, Mr. Justice Surendra Kumar Sinha, a Hindu, was appointed Chief Justice, a very small but significant step in the right direction. In the present 350 parliament members of Bangladesh, there are less than 20 members of the parliament who belong to the minority religious or ethnic communities. Minorities, we regret to say, are invisible in the eyes of a good number of NGOs, many of which enjoy the support of overseas donors and governments. The two reasons for the decline are, first, the enemy property law. Finally, violence against minorities is widespread. Almost every day, both the English and the vernacular media report at least one violent incident against some minority group member. The Human Rights Hotline Trust, a Bangladeshi NGO, believe that such incidents are often underreported. The worst form of violence is the denial of justice. Professor Abul Barkat, an economist, estimates that Hindus lost 220,000 acres of land and houses between 2001 and 2006. Temples are magnets for Islamist-inspired mob violence. The images in the Hindu temples are decorated with gold, a very sought-after commodity in South Asia. Buddhist arts and artifacts also command high prices in the world's art market. The most ugly and destructive of the pogroms against Hindus and Buddhists was in 2012 and 2013. And it occurred in Hathazari near Chittagong, when, according to many local Muslim witnesses, members of Hifazat-e-Islam, the Shibir and the Jamaat-e-Islami incited Muslim mobs to attack Hindus and Buddhist homes, temples, and other property. Ancient Buddhist temples and Hindu temples were looted and burned to the ground. I mention this incident because it has a direct link with the rise of Hifazat-e-Islam. According to the Bangladesh Daily Star, which ran a cover story on the incident, the Hathazari incident was the starting point of religious terrorism of Jamaat in recent years. A favorite tactic used by Islamists is to spread a rumor that the Prophet or the Quran had been insulted by a Hindu on Facebook, to mobilize mobs, to block roads and traffic, and start on an orgy of arson, looting, and assaults. Finally, I would like to inform you about the unique problem of the abduction and rape leading to forced conversions and forced marriages. Minority women and girls are the most vulnerable of all because they enjoy greater freedom of movement. Sexual assault and rape are still considered very shameful in South Asia among all communities, and victims get little comfort by going to the police. The police are corrupt and untrustworthy and liable to mistreat the victim. Abduction of women and underage teens often end in forced conversions and marriages. There are no specific laws banning the forced marriages. Abductions are usually not taken seriously by the local police. There are often notices in the vernacular press saying, I, AB of XY, and daughter of CD have converted to from Hinduism to Islam. My new name is EF. I am now the wife of GH. This is a sure sign that this is case of forced conversion and marriage. Unfortunately, there are no statistics about forced conversions and marriages. We are pleased to report that the systematic violence against the minorities has abated since the end of the last year. It seems the lowland area minorities are breathing a bit easier, but the Adivasis or Aboriginal peoples are still suffering. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. I see that our second witness has arrived. Welcome, Doctor. Our second witness is Dr. Aditya Dewan. What we've been doing is hearing from our first witness. We would like now to hear your testimony, and then we will go to questions from the members of the committee. I would just encourage you, if possible, to keep your remarks as short as possible in order to allow time for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Chair of the subcommittee and Vice Chairs and the members of the committee here and all the people who are present here, I'll be very brief. I have also submitted before my brief 3-4 days ago, and I hope you have already have a copy of this. First of all, briefly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Aditya Kumar Dewan. I I'm a professor of anthropology at Concordia University, and also I did my PhD at McGill, and also during that period, my professors was, I think, here is Kotler, Dr. Kotler, and Governor General was, I received a doctorate degree from, during the convocation at McGill in 1990. So I was fortunate to have these two distinguished personalities in Canada, and so since then I have been teaching here at McGill, at Concordia University. Now, my I represent here is the one that International Council for the Indigenous Peoples of the Chittagong Hill Tracts, and so this is the organizations that representing all the overseas indigenous people throughout the world, in Australia, in America, here, and other places. I'm the president of that organizations. The reason why I have organized and founded this organization is to do human rights campaign for the Chittagong Hill Tracts indigenous people. And there has been constant human rights violations in the area since the Bangladesh independence. We know that there have been countless human rights violations took place. If you look at the if anyone can check in Amnesty International and other human rights organizations, they have all the reports. And I also got a report today. That's the one on 16th of February, 18th of February, Amnesty International came out with a report, that damning report that silencing the indigenous people. The Ministry of Home Affairs sent a memo that indigenous people will not be allowed and foreign to talk to the foreigners. The foreigners were banned from entering into the CST. Not only foreigners, Bangladeshi individuals and organizations are not allowed to do without the permission from the army and the military. So there has been well-documented evidence of arsons, looting, and attack on the indigenous people frequently. Every year we see 2-3 attacks are committed by the army and the settlers, Bengali settlers. So that's what led us to organize a campaign appealing to the foreign governments to stop this. How can we stop this? Countless, enormous human rights violations taking place in all sorts of violations are taking place. So I will not list all of them. So our main purpose is to let you know what is happening there. That completely, I'm using one word. We are born free and everywhere in chain. That's what the Rousseau said in French during the French revolutions. So that's what you can compare, that we are not able to freely move in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. Personally, I have 2 incidents I want to say to you today. One of them is Bushansara massacre. That's my village was completely taken over. 400 people were killed, and that is still under occupation of the Bengali settlers. And another one was happened in 1980. That was called famous Kawakhali massacre. The army convened a meeting in the temple, and then people, when got together, they just gunned down 400 people. That is my sister's family, and also other villages were gunned down. So after gunning down that, people, the settlers moved in, setting fire, burning, looting, and everything went on. So there has been two periods here where, so I am not going to do any other kinds of things. Briefly, since I don't have time to list all of them, one of them is deny of ethnic identity of the indigenous people. So Bangladesh government said, we don't have any indigenous people in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, Bangladesh. And that has been opposed when we went to the United Nations Permanent Forum. The Bangladesh authorities sent a representative saying that the Permanent Forum of indigenous people has no business to do saying that the indigenous people are in Bangladesh. So this is one thing. Then I just want to mention that when Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came to the United Nations to address some on the nations. Then Ban Ki-moon asked her that what is happening to your indigenous people, and she answered that no, we don't have any indigenous people. We are the indigenous people. So then Ban Ki-moon made a joke saying that, well, you know, that's very good that we have indigenous people in the United Nations like you. And he was laughing at her. So this is one thing. Since then, we have been doing all kinds of lobbying in other places. So that is also, Army has created many arms groups among the indigenous people. They are fighting among themselves. And the Army does not arrest them or take them to the court. So that is Army and the settlers, what they are going, there is complete immunity. Their culture of immunity developed, and they are not answering to anyone else. So Chittagong Hill Tracts is completely under occupation, just like occupation army in any other place. So why this is happening? This is the peace time. We are not doing anything. We are not protesting. Nothing is there. So why there are so much secrecy? Is that one that they want to hide the crime? You know, not allowing the foreigners to listen. So this is what one possible thing is that if they do anything wrong, probably it will go out, because Bangladesh government is very much afraid of publicity. At the same time, you know, they are afraid of the if they have problems with the foreign aid. So this is what is. Then there is what I will say. There is a possibility that why there are so many secrecy, are not allowing the people outside to go in there. There might be some training of the Islamic terrorists. The Chittagong Hill Tracts is one of the mountainous regions, very hilly and mountainous regions. And people, there are rumors, well, I don't have the proof, but they're saying that there might be some training because people are coming from the Burma, Rohingya situation, Rohingyas, you know, and also other groups there are. So the money is pouring from Middle East, and there have been increasing number of madrasas of where the you know, the religious schools established. So when there is any riots occur, anything incidents happen, they hire people from the outside Chittagong Hill Tracts, paying them, hire goons there. So this is what. So basically, I should call this as a genocide as Bangladesh style. That means it is not just like Rwanda or Bosnia kind of killing going on. The slow demise of the indigenous people taking over land, and so that people don't know anything and outside. The army is very much this way they are protecting themselves. And we went to the Department of Peacekeeping at the United Nations, and Bangladesh, they hired 10,000 Bangladesh army at the peacekeeping force at the United Nations. We told them that your people are Bangladesh peacekeepers. When they go back, they violate human rights. They do the raping, killing, and everything in the area. So what I said about the intention, and honorable members all know that United Nations definition of genocide is the Article 2, which is the one that any kind of deliberate attempt to kill and with an intent to destroy, or in whole or in part of this. This is exactly what is happening. They are trying to, intentionally, they are trying to, completely doing all these human rights violations. At the same time, there was a peace agreement held in December 2nd, 1992. These 17 years have passed. Government has not even, implemented all those peace agreed upon between the government and the armed forces, insurgents that in 1997. So 60,000 refugees from India They have been repatriated. Still, they have not been given back their lands that occupied by the settlers and the Bengali people. So most probably, I will take time. I will give answers if you have. Thank you very much. I am so fortunate that I have been able to come here, tell my stories, what is happening in there. So I myself, as a refugee in 1984, I sought refugee status in Canada, and Canadian government gave me, refuge here, and because I was not able to go back because I did my doctoral thesis at McGill, on Chittagong Hill Tracks, and so that was the one that. So what my conclusions and recommendation is that, as I said, Canadian government provide large amount of foreign aid to Bangladesh. Okay. I'm not saying that you use that aid as a weapon or tied aid, but what I'm saying that still, if you want to develop human rights, promotion of human rights, democracy in a developing country like Bangladesh, it has to go with this side by side, not simply or integrating or giving, respecting the rights of religious minorities everywhere. So the Canadian government can do and have much power to influence the Bangladesh government. I'm not saying that Bangladesh is a sovereign country. They will argue that, but you have enough room to promote democracy, human rights in the areas that you provide foreign aid. So I basically give thanks to all of you here. I'm so fortunate that I was able to do, because we are so a small number of people, we are unable to reach to the people, unable to have, news outside. So in Bangladesh, if ferry capsizes or a snake bite gets attention to the mainstream news media, but something going on there never came up in the major news media, CBC or CTV or whatever. So that's what we are completely blacked out by the, because Bangladesh government has so many tools to influence in many areas, but we are unable to do that. So again, I thank you, all of you. I end my statement here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Colleagues, in the past when we've had two witnesses and I give a specific time for questions, frequently the second answer puts us well into overtime, and on our last occasion we didn't wrap up until about 20 minutes after we were supposed to. So in the interest of keeping things under control, I'm going to ask each person to place one question, and then we'll see if we get one answer or two answers to that question. We'll begin with you, Mr. Sweet.
Chair, and Mr. Roy and Mr. Dewan, thank you very much for your testimony. I understand, Mr. Roy, you're a refugee as well from Bangladesh?
Yes, I got refugee status in 1984.
Yes, I know you, Mr. Dewan, but Mr. Roy, is that
yes.
the case? Yes, okay.
In 1992.
So both of you are, can you help all of us here to understand, you're talking about indigenous minorities, Buddhists, Christians, Ahmadiyyan, Hindus, but there's Ahmadi Muslims as well, I believe, are part of the religious minorities that are being persecuted. And all of this is happening within the context of great political strife going on right now, so real polarization. My understanding is that the government goes back and forth between the AL and the BNP. Do both of those parties, when they're in government, are both of them acting the same way towards indigenous people and Christian minorities, or is it different when one of them are in government or not?
As far as I know, for the minorities like Hindus, Buddhists, and Christians, BNP and their allies, Islamist allies, I mean, Jamaat-e-Islami, Hifazat-e-Islam, and all these, they are the worst kind. In 2001, about 200 women were raped in broad daylight during the tenure of BNP government. And now it's not stopped at all. The thing is, anything happens, this government takes initiative to arrest or do something. But after the incident happens, not that they used to protect those minorities. After anything happens to the village or subdivisions or sub-districts, after the incident happens, police goes there, arrests 2-3 people, but none of the perpetrators were brought to justice. And that's the irony of this country, Bangladesh.
May I say something?
Yes.
Okay, so I think for indigenous people or religious minorities, both the parties are same. There is no difference between them. My perception is that, in fact, Bangladesh is a kind of failed state. What I am saying is here that these political parties, one after another, they rely completely on the army. And in 2009, when there was an election, and there was a caretaker government had to supervise the elections, so that the United Nations Peacekeeping Department threatened the army if they don't support that part, then they will not hire peacekeeping force. Then army supported the caretaker government. Then election was held. Then the current Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina came into power. So what my guess is that the government all the political parties, they are very weak, and they are not very much dependent on army and the bureaucrats, government bureaucrats. So they are basically subordinated to those. They had to listen. The indigenous issues, the army went to the Sheikh Hasina and cried to the outcome that indigenous people, that was the United Nations declarations of indigenous people, that will harm if we call indigenous them. So the government said that then the term indigenous should not be used. Although government used in many documents, in any speeches, anywhere indigenous, but after army took, influenced them, then they ban all the term using and erase all the term indigenous from all government documents. So this is what exactly army is the more powerful one inside, which I believe that they cannot control army because of both the parties are hungry for power all the time. But this is my assumptions as an academic or observer. This is what is happening there. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Marsden, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before I ask my question, I just want to note for the record, Mr. Chair, that Matthew Kellaway Beaches East York is here, as Dan Harris Scarborough Southwest observing the debate. I thought it would be nice to put them on record. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Mr. Dewan, whenever there's people being pushed off their land and the kind of murders that's happening with the indigenous people, quite often it is framed as a religious activity when in fact they're being displaced for the land or the minerals that are in the land. Or so. Is that the case?
Not for exactly mineral or any other case. I think the army has a corporate interest. They have a very big business, and I have all documents. There is a research paper came out. So and in the Chittagong Hill Tracts there is 60 people per one army personnel. In any other parts of Bangladesh, 17,000 people per army personnel. So, and actually, there are international development going on. Australians road development projects. There are Japanese projects. There are huge foreign aid projects are going on. Everything is supervised by the army.
So it does sound like that at least is part of it.
Yeah, they manage everything.
Do I have any more time, Mr. Chair?
Under the circumstances, yes.
Thank you so much. Mr. Roy, in your opinion, is the targeting of the Buddhists linked to the situation facing the Rohingyas in Burma?
Rohingyas, to my knowledge, are little bit circled by the army, and the government of Bangladesh was threatened by Japan that my Buddhist people, if they are touched, then you'll be in big trouble. We won't help you. So Rohingyas just now know, but in Chittagong hill tracks, the army, and the other part of Chittagong and hill tracks, all Islamists, they have madrasas, and not only madrasas, they have training camps. And they export to other parts of Bangladesh these Islamists.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Marston. Squirrel, please.
Chair, and thank you to the witnesses for your time and your presentations. Well, according to the 2011 census, Sunni Muslims, they constitute 90%, and Hindus make up 9.5% of the total population. The remainder of the population is predominantly Christian and Theravada Buddhists. According to the Bangladesh Hindu Buddhist Christian Unity Council, a number of Islamists are involved in attacks against minority communities, especially Hindus. Since the start of 2015, at least 6 Hindus have been killed and 3 have been raped, 7 temples, 54 homes, and 84 Hindu idols have also been attacked and vandalized. So what is the motivation behind these attacks? Is it to drive the minorities out of the country, or is it, as some government and other observers claim, due to motivations that have little to do with religious beliefs or affiliations?
I think you got the point. It's to drive all the minorities from that part. I can tell you a story. You know, our national mosque is Baitul Mukarram. The chief priest of that temple once said, of the mosque, said that in Muslim countries, only Muslims will stay. Those who are other religion here, they have to convert to Islam. And in the democratic countries, our people will go and establish their rights over there. So, in nutshell, this Jamaat or other Islamist parties, their goal is to, I'll tell you, one family, one girl is raped, the entire community will deviate them from this family. So this family had no choice just to leave the country. So that way, they are doing 2 things in mind. One is land grab and minority girls.
Mr. Diwan, do you have anything to say on this?
Concerning the minorities in general, if you look at the figure, in 1947, when India was divided into Pakistan and India, there was the significant number of about 32% of the minorities are Hindus and other. So right now it came down to almost 8%. So the figure speaks itself, how much it is going on, persecution of minorities. They have different method of acquiring those for false accusation or any other things. They initiate rioting. When riotings occur, then they are attacked. All the things are burned, and that Hindus leave for India. Then the lands are taken over. This is another method. In the Chittagong Hills, it's the same thing. Our indigenous population fled to Mizoram in India, Tripura, and we have about 100,000 indigenous people in Arunachal, which was called NEPA, Northeastern Frontier Agency in India. So they are about many years, So they still did not get any citizenship. They had gone there in 1964. So when land was flooded by the hydroelectric plant, 100,000 people displaced, 50% of the best agricultural land went underwater. So even then, after that, we don't have any land. So where we had the land, where is the room for the new settlers? We have no quarrel with any other Bengalis. The old Bengalis, we have been living there for side by side for hundreds of years, and we had no problem. Problem started when Bangladesh became independent, and there are people for false pretext they took over the land from neighboring. They just staged reign of terror in the area, and we don't get any justice. We don't go to anything anywhere. We don't get any kind of justice from the because you know that the court system is not like here. That means what I say, there is no rule of law. Rule of law is the key for keeping the whole country together. Anyone here they get the justice whenever, through the media, through the justice system, anywhere. The rule of law is not there. That's my whole point in Bangladesh. And everything is politically, religiously motivated to destroy the whole communities. This is what is happening in Bangladesh. It's a very sad story.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Graywall. We go now to Professor Kotler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. I want to say hello again to Dr. Dewan and appreciate you being here. And I have two questions which really arise from your testimony. You mentioned that the Canadian government provides aid, considerably, to Bangladesh, and that should mean that the Canadian government would have leverage with respect to influencing the government of Bangladesh. And the second point you mentioned, which is a rather painful point, is that the plight of the indigenous people in Bangladesh is simply not on the international radar screen. You don't read about it, one doesn't hear about it, and so that helps to nurture the culture of impunity, and that helps, frankly, encourage the violations of the rule of law, because there is no, not only is there no world is watching, but in fact it's not on any radar screen. So my questions are, how can the Canadian government or the Canadian Parliament, how can we influence the Bangladesh government, given that we do provide aid, but how do we influence them to protect the indigenous population, to respect the rule of law, to end the culture of impunity, to respect the peace agreement, all the things you mentioned? That's number one. And number two, which is not unrelated to it, how can we make this case in public opinion, even public opinion here in Canada, given that one set of violations cancels out another set of violations, and in a world in which everybody is talking about ISIS and Boko Haram, etc., how do we give expression to your particular very painful situation?
Thank you, sir. According to my understanding, of course, there are a lot of money channeled through SDIR to Bangladesh. I don't have any figure how much and how much is invested, or how much aid money go to the Chittagong Hills. I don't have any figure because I was unable to get anything that kind of. Of course, as a donor, Bangladesh is dependent a country, in fact, and Bangladesh's most fear is publicity, number one. Number two is if the aid donor have some kind of influence that okay, we have this, and it is our responsibility as Canadian. I am also very proud of, as a Canadian citizen right now, that our moral, ethical responsibility is to promote and respect for the human rights in the area. So if you are receiving my aid, democracy and human rights go side by side as a package. We must promote, human rights, and the indigenous people and religious minorities should be respected just like any other here we do. So that's what I really want, that Canadian government can speak to the people. I'm not saying that to stop the, it's a very poor country. It was one of the most poorest country in the world, I know, and where is 150 million population right now within 55,000 square miles area. So of course, but within our capacity, and our aid money, we can of course influence that one. So another one is that you have asked me to how we can promote. It is basically it's a kind of media coverage. Media coverage, we are unable to do that. There are lots of mainstream media we are unable to or don't want to do that because we are so insignificant numbers. Why should we care? That's the attitude when I find, because of we are all the time here, and in fact, all of our movements are hijacked by the ISIS and the Islamic terrorism things. And we have been waiting for this moment and postponed many times. I am very indebted to Dr. Bose. She was trying to have this meeting for us, organizing for us, and I'm very indebted to her. And so this is one thing that I remember. I give you one example. I went to the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues in 2011. Then I had a press conference there, and multimedia was there, and so we have given testimony there. So there was a huge coverage, and we had also took part in front of the United Nations building, speeches and rallies, and so we had some kind of coverage. Then one day, one Bengali woman came to me, asking me. She was just in New York. She was a member of just Awami League, local Awami League. She was saying that why you are doing all these things? Let us talk about that, and we don't want publicity. I guess that okay. She invited me to meet with the ambassador of Bangladesh, United Nations ambassador of Bangladesh to the United Nations. So she said, "Oh, I'm going to arrange for you a dinner and something like that." So I understood that they really are afraid of publicity very much. So this is what one of the two things that made Bangladesh government probably listen what really what it has to be done. The problem I can see is I don't know. As I said before, army is so powerful, and they are not going to do anything. They know very well if they can go on rampaging or killing in larger scale, it will be in the newspaper and any places. But so they are doing slowly. It's called something called creepy genocide, or I have the here is called IWGI said militarization in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, the slow demise of the region's indigenous people. So if anybody is interested, I can send you the copy of this, electronic copies. I have documents. If anybody is interested, I have 15 copies here. I will leave. You can pick up most of the documents are here. So surprisingly, I'm so happy that we got 18 February documents by the Amnesty International saying that silencing the indigenous people of Bangladesh. They are not allowed to talk to the foreigners, not even to the Bangladeshis, organizations and individuals. So this is a very, I am saying that enough is enough. So this is what, I have to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, so at the end of the meeting, perhaps you could bring those documents up to the clerk and leave them with him. He'll make sure that the members of the committee get to see them. Thank you. Let's go now to Mr. Hillier, please.
Hi, thank you. As far as the Bangladesh, country of Bangladesh not wanting publicity, they like the fact that they're low on the radar screen. Do you think, besides putting pressure on with our, with our foreign aid, etc., that visits from parliamentarians would make a difference?
Of course, it will make difference parliamentary, and if that will be more powerful and forceful, if the parliamentarian can raise this issue in the House of Commons or any kind of discussions, will be very greatly helpful. That's my view. Is that once it is known to they will think that we cannot keep them any more silent. So we have really some of our the kind of actions we take against indigenous people reach to the top, and in many important places. They will think about that. I think it will make a great difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
You can go with more than one question if the answer is that brief.
That's good.
All right. In that case, we go to Mr. Benskin.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen, for your presence here. One of the things about participating in this committee is the things that you learn, and I would first like to apologize for my own ignorance in terms of the plight of indigenous people in Bangladesh. I guess I suffer from the limitations of Western existence and thinking that only the problems we see are the only ones that exist. So I thank you for bringing your situation to our attention. I'm glad this committee was able to facilitate you and facilitate that. And I guess my question comes on the heels of Professor Kotler in terms of I'm particularly concerned, I guess, and fascinated to a certain extent to what you were saying in terms of what the government does in striking the term indigenous people from all their documents, as if striking those words from the documents make you non-existent. And what are you referred to then in terms of your existence, your actual existence in Bangladesh? And can you maybe elaborate a little more on some of the work that you're doing in order to raise awareness of your existence and the trials and tribulations that you as indigenous people face in Bangladesh?
Thank you. That was the one in 2011 we have requested. We sent memorandum. I have sent the memorandum to the Bangladesh Prime Minister. There was a constitutional amendment was going on, 16 amendment of the Constitution of Bangladesh, and we have requested them, appealed them that Bangladesh, that the indigenous people should be enshrined as their identity as indigenous people in Bangladesh Constitution. And Bangladesh, the government completely denied that appeal, because they can do in the Constitution because they have more than two-thirds of the majority, Awami League, Hasina's government. So they can do whatever they like right now because of the majority they have in the government. So, what happened? I give just one example. In the airport, there are lots of pictures, billboard. There are indigenous women, smiling indigenous women. So when after that one, the question came up and they banned denied the indigenous people, they removed that billboard. They said the indigenous women erased. So again, subsequently, they gave government orders. All the foreign aid agencies, they must not refer indigenous people. The foreign aid agencies as well as the government agencies, and order the government officials to erase the term indigenous from all the government documents, which was previously, so they say one day today, one thing, another thing, and the next day, they completely change overnight. So because of the what army lobbying group went to the prime minister saying that if you recognize that indigenous people, we have to give up them our land, this and that, and so as I said, there was declarations of the United Nations rights of the indigenous people. So that one, Bangladesh was one of the signatory, and even ILO, International Labour Organizations, 107 and 169, they recognize Bangladesh is one signatory. So if they say that indigenous people exist there, then there will be a big problem because they get more money, some other things, UNESCO, other places from the United Nations or World Bank. So this is the reason they are very much, denying why there should be indigenous. They are saying that we are indigenous. So this is what my understanding is that.
Thank you very much. Thank you to our witnesses. I know you went through some transportation issues getting here. We're grateful that you were able to come and to shed some light on this very important subject. So we very much appreciate your attendance here. If you do have any materials to leave, please leave them with the clerk before you go back home. Thanks very much, colleagues. We are adjourned.